So we're going to start recording this a little bit late. So no, we don't. We do not need to start all over again, but we do need to make, Kent, if you can make note for Katie as to what happened going through to this point. So for the first 15 minutes, we started at 7:04. We approved the consent agenda unanimously. All council members are present. And you gave your report. I think that's pretty much.
Yep, I had that.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much, Kelly. All right. Sorry about that, Katie. Katie's listening in the future. Kind of like 88 gigawatts. Okay, great Scott. Oh, all right. Little Back to the Future reference for you.
And then
guys.
I have one more thing to my report.
Go ahead. And what is this other thing you need to report on, Ken?
This is a letter from our from Mary Fran that she could not make it tonight. However, she asked me to read you this letter. So I'm going to read it. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Good morning, Ken. I'm forwarding the information I wanted to present to council tonight so that you can forward it to them and include it in the council packet for their records. I feel that council never really knew what work I did. I am not sure that even if you even knew. I had all the responsibility while council looked for new clerks, while I covered for the clerks, and I tried to keep up with the scanning. Being sure the important information was entered after council, but back records were only done when I needed to search for something. Then I would scan it before refilling. The sewer ordinance still has to be amended for industrial, commercial, and residential rates and late fees. It was due January 1st of 2019. Numerous times it has been worked on but never completed. That would help the budget with the sewer expenses. I realize that no one likes increase, but the city has lost 2.5 years of money. I think it has been done for the next utility billing when the public hearing and third ordinance readings are completed. I think the budget was used as an easy way to terminate me, since I was asked many times why I don't retire at my age. Why are you still working at your age? Don't you want to retire? When will you retire? I was never asked about reducing hours, pay, or told my position would be eliminated by the mayor or city administrator. So that is why on March 9th of 2021, I was in shock. I would still like to be considered for reduced hours, 1 day a week or every other week, to continue with scanning and filing after the new budget. Again, I've enjoyed my 14 years with the city. Residents pay my salary, and I made sure I worked hard for them. I've seen many changes, and there will be many more. Let me start by stating I wasn't the elderly lady who answers the phone. I worked 14 years for the city of Riverdale and enjoyed meeting the residents, making friends with many, and helping whenever possible. I worked for 5 mayors: Norma Wren, Jeff Bridwald, John Franklin, Sonny Podak, and Mike Bodwin. I have covered for 3 clerks: Teresa Rolfs from January 2019 to April 2009, 4 months; Paula McIntosh from October 2016 to May 2017, 8 months; Ron Fuller Love from September 19th through July 2020, 10 months. There was even, when there was 2 of us working, we split duties. When I covered after the clerks left, I did both clerk and deputy clerk work, which involved coding all invoices, accounts payable, payroll, bank, iPay reconciliation after all deposits and EFT, lost and road use tax into GWorks. Completed federal 941 taxes, Iowa taxes, Aflac, IPERS, sales tax, workforce development reports. I prepared financial reports for the council, entered all receipts into GWorks, and prepared the bank deposits, and took many times took deposits to the bank. Took minutes at council meetings, typed the minutes, made sure all legal documents such as public hearings, ordinances, minutes, budgets, etc. were all published in the Quad City Times and newspaper by the required time. At the end of the council meeting, scanned all warrants, payroll, agendas, minutes, affidavits, resolutions, etc. Also answered the phone, helped residents keep and kept the calendar on the website up to date. Did additional scanning information into Laserfiche when time permitted. One of my duties over the years was ordered supplies when needed. I always looked for the best deals. I prepared council packets until present mayor. Last 4 years, I've done all utility billing, which consisted of obtaining consumption readings from Iowa American Water in order to create new accounts for utility billing, to correct the zero readings, all or high consumption readings. Move in, move out. I have to be updated before billing and finally the billing and mailing. I updated 2 telephone books in 2014 and 2018 and mailed to the residents. From 2009, I did a newsletter every month along with mailing them until the present mayor. By state had our website. I entered all city information, newsletters, agenda, minutes, resolutions, ordinance, public hearing, etc. until the website was changed with the current mayor. I was able to work on the bonding of 2011 and 2012, the State Street Urban Renewal Plan, the Woods TIF, making sure all records got into the council packets to the attorneys and to the records to the recorder's office. One reason I was hired was to help obtain records for the numerous lawsuits in 2007 and did research forward on all lawsuits and records requests. I have done all preserving of records on Laserfiche. From day one, the city of Riverdale, all minutes, resolutions, ordinance have been scanned, information on bonds, State Street Urban Renewal Plan, Welch Farm and Woods Estates, contracts, and other important city issues have been scanned and should be recent. Recently, I was working on new ways to record or scan into Laserfiche. If at any time I had a problem with reports, accounting software, Laserfiche, the website, I would call Des Moines by state Laserfiche or Data Technologies /G-Works for their support, or sometimes check with other clerks, and everyone always was very helpful. When I was called to come back on March 9th of 2021, I did not have any idea I would be handed a letter stating this is your last day. I was told there's no money in the budget and your position, and the mayor and council decided to terminate me at a budget meeting. Since the mayor and or council representative was not present, I was not able to ask about cutting hours, work 1 day a week, or 1 day every other week to keep filing, scanning, or work per diem to help with vacation, sick time, etc. I would like to mention that tonight's council consideration, if not for the current budget, then FY 21/22 starting in July 2021 at previous council meetings, April, May, or June 2020. The question was asked by a councilman if there was enough money to pay 2 full-time employees. The answer was yes, without saying that they would terminate an employee because no money to pay a position. Also, I believe there should be a resolution stating my termination and why, as with previous clerks, unless the council considers my mentioned request. Once again, I just wanted to let everyone know that I wasn't just an elderly lady who answered the phone, and no way do I feel elderly. Thank you for listening. I will definitely miss working for the city of Riverdale and its residents. Mary Fran Clements. Thank you.
Okay, so that's Mary Fran's statement. Council members, do you have anything you want to add? Anybody?
Is this on the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Later or now?
No, it's part of Kent's report.
It's part of my report.
Mhm.
She requested that I
Mhm.
read it because the way we're doing it.
Because even though we read it at the last meeting that we had, she didn't, I don't know, maybe she didn't feel that that was complete. I mean, it was everything she sent to us, but I thought it was fine for her to go ahead and add this, but I've got a couple comments, but go ahead. Does anyone have anything they want to add to the record? Mhm.
So do we need to do what she's asking us to do? Do we need a resolution with a reason?
No, unless you want to have one.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No. And so what was she told when this letter of termination was handed to her?
Did we get a copy? Can you copy everybody on the letter?
No, I'm not, you gave us the letter, but she said there was a conversation and she was told verbally that we didn't have the money in the budget to pay for them. I'm just wondering if that's true. If that was said, and if that, I mean, because that, I don't know that that's the reason, that's not the reason.
It's not the reason.
Well, I think what she referenced in her letter though wasn't from the conversation that they had. It was from like a budget meeting in a previous year that it was set at or something on. I guess my understanding of it was we rewrote the position to be full-time and she didn't apply on it. And that was how the position changed. Not that we were letting anybody go. It was just you either applied on it or you didn't.
The deputy clerk position was written to be a full-time 5-day-a-week job. We didn't actually, if you remember, we didn't actually have anyone applying for that position up until just right before, we were literally getting ready to go into interviews for the city administrator. At that time, I said to Mary Fran, are you interested in that job? It's a 5-day-week job. Is that something that you would want to do? And she said, no, I don't want to work 5 days a week. And I said, then the person that we do hire is going to be doing this job. And I don't know how long you're going to be still working here. We've got a project that you could be working on. And that's what she did. And when that project, that was basically, the project was to scan and file all of our documents into an electronic file in Laserfish. And when that money was exhausted, plus a little bit more, then it just so happened that we also were under a COVID shutdown. She was furloughed and then she wasn't brought back because there was no money to go ahead and continue that project. The project, by the way, was not completed. She was not able to get it done. And with all due respect, and I appreciated the work that Mary Fran did here and everything. She was not making progress to be able to show that that project was going to ever get done in the way that the city needed to have it done. So it was just best to go ahead and wind it up like we did.
We deliberated for a number of sessions regards what needed to be done with our staff to address our current needs and what we consider to be our near-term future needs. And so it wasn't an easy decision, but we greatly increased what the city, what we were going to support for our overall staff needs. And, that expansion was, that's a big commitment by the town residents. And certainly, I don't think there's a justification to think of another position.
Right.
We brought in a consultant to help us with this.
Kent, in your estimation, do you need another 8 hours every 2 weeks of administrative support?
No.
Okay.
Hey,
Yep.
you guys got to unmute yourselves before you talk. I think Terry's hearing you. If you're not unmuted, she just said she can't hear you.
Oh, make sure your mic's on. Yeah.
I'm not moving.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
well, that's all I have.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry about that there, Terry. Thank you for letting us know that it's a little difficult to hear Paul and Kelly. We'll ask them to speak up a little bit more. The only other thing that I would add to that is that although I don't doubt that at one point or another during the time that she was here, that she did everything that she outlined in that letter. My experience was that she was not doing everything that was outlined in that letter while I was mayor. So there were a number of filings, a number of responsibilities that she kind of listed of things that she did in a way that I have no doubt that at one point or another, she did do all of those things, but she did not do all of them all the time. So with, again, like I said, with all due respect to Mary Fran, we appreciate the service and everything. We appreciate the work. The opportunity was there for her to go ahead and apply for the job. She turned it down and we moved on. And I think that that's all there is to that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on if we can to our engineers report. Chris Cooper, would you like to join us here? I will go ahead and turn my computer around so that you can address the council. Make sure your smiling face is in there.
So are there any questions on the report, project update report we submitted?
Questions on any of the items in the project update report from Chris?
A lot of information.
It's not much there at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I got a lot of paper.
Chris, I have to lie, I have to tell you that I beefed up your report, I included some of the reports for council's information regarding the Woods subdivision and some of the reports and some of the issues.
Oh, okay, well.
So they're looking at a lot more than you think.
So there were some issues with Woods Estates, but as of today, the major outstanding issue, which was the sanitary laterals and the water service lines, were on wrong properties. That has been corrected. So the roadway where the coyote prints are has been patched. Aesthetically, it looks terrible, but it's a functioning road. So I'm assuming that there will be a ordinance ordinances made to accommodate the curb, and therefore everything's been addressed.
Okay,
You mentioned a lateral that was like on a boundary or something like that.
So the laterals and the sanitary laterals and the water services, for reasons I do not know, Paul, were not put in to service like one lateral per lot, one water service plot. They appear to be put in haphazardly, and some lots had 2 and some lots had none. So those have been relocated. The extent they at least taken it back to the right of way line and then realign the sewer so it goes to the right lot now.
Okay.
did they have to tear up road to do that?
No, the right of way line is 15 feet or 10 feet behind the back curve.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah,
okay, I see.
So it's on the
yeah.
lot itself.
So it's in the right of way. There may be a portion that looks like it's in the other guy's lot, but it's on the city right of way. If you ever have to dig it up again, so you have right to have access to your own right of way.
Okay,
You know.
all right, that makes sense.
And the damaged curb.
It's not damaged, it's not to our specifications.
No, there was some.
There was
It looked like
damage
they
curb on addition 1 from the plow.
one.
Yeah.
But that's not on Seth Woods, that's the plowing and damage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's been turned over, so it's ours, isn't it? Dang it.
Well, which is why I asked that question before, because when I walked up through there before the snow plowing started, there was damage to at least one of those cars. I think the top right corner picture there is the one that I took pictures of that I had sent in a while back, and I said, well, why are we gonna accept this other stuff if, it's just falling apart before we even get it.
Was it falling apart or did it get abused?
I don't know, I guess I probably figured somebody drove a truck or something.
Okay, the other issue with regard to the curb, we're gonna talk about that later, right?
Yeah, well, we can talk about that now.
Okay, when brief the council on the curb situation between phase 1 and phase 2 for Woods Estates.
So the city of Riverdale, in the ordinance, has a subdivision ordinance, and within that subdivision ordinance, there is a specification for the curb shape that is to be used. That's also the same shape that happens to be on the plans for addition 2. What was installed was a rollover type curb is a city of Bettendorf specification. For reasons I don't know, I was not part of that project, but that's what was installed. It's very apparent when you see the transition from the addition 1 curve to the addition 2 curve. They knew there was a change. Why no one was informed, I don't know again. But there seems to be a preference from listening to residents last meeting that they like the rollover curve better for when you can mow it easier without dropping off and so forth. And hopefully, it's, in my opinion, it's less likely to be damaged from snow plowing. So I can see why you would want to go there. It's just that you need to formally adopt it as acceptable because it does not meet your current ordinances.
Right, so there will need to be an ordinance change to do that. And it's important we get on that sooner rather than later because it's my understanding that that's the curb that they're proposing for Fenno Drive too.
Yeah, actually, we're proposing that for Fennel Drive and also phase 3.
And for phase 3 of Woods.
Yep, if that's what we're gonna do.
Okay. Is there a drawback to go using that curb standard versus what we had in the subdivision ordinance?
hydraulically, there's less capacity to handle some of the roadway runoff on the side of the road. But I don't think there's a drawback other than that.
Okay.
I would still encourage new driveways to actually get a curb cut and try, it's called a rollover curb, because theoretically you can just drive over it. But you're still gonna have to get a front end alignment every time you do that, so.
Yes, you do.
That's what we did in Haven's Acres, isn't it?
It's great.
Right, that curve, the rollover curve is what we've got in Haven's Acres too.
We got that on Valley Drive too,
And it's on federal too.
it's terrible to get into it, my way.
Mhm.
Especially in the winter time when I gotta run for the hill to make the hill.
Yeah,
What I do is I pile up snow and make it ice and make it around, because that's the only thing I can do. I mean, literally, I've already been to the alignment shop with all of my cars, and my neighbor has. But, you know, it's
Okay.
here and there, I'm not gonna pay to get it
what's
fixed.
the College Drive stormwater drainage issue is currently on hold. Is there anything we need to do there to get it moving on that? Because that's gonna come up and bite us in the butt if we don't.
Yeah, we've emailed the invoice and we're waiting to hear back from Matt Smith.
Okay.
So that's where we are.
All right, let me know if something needs to be done. Okay, I think that's it for right now, Chris. We'll have more. Oh, Steve Townsend has a question. Go ahead, Steve.
This is from P and Z. We gotta approve this next week. I went up there and looked at those paths for the animal tracks. And it looks like the path material is blowed out in places. Salt will get in there this winter and freeze and thaw and blow it out. I don't know how we can approve that. Is that epoxy or is it cement? What they put in those holes?
I did not request a catalog cut of the material they used. See, I don't know what the material is. To be honest with you, my experience has been with IDOT or DOT type work, and that normally requires a partial depth patch. Because you can go to any highway in the world across rural America and there's no coyote tracks on it. They don't accept it, but it doesn't impact the structural integrity of the road. It's just a more aesthetics thing. And I approach it, the city of Riverdale is getting a new road.
Mhm.
They shouldn't get a road with defects.
Mhm.
That was,
So would you accept that road?
I would not, but I tend to lean more toward the DOT
Mm-hmm.
side of things. I mean, they would not accept it, but they carry big bags. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And there's 2 spots?
There's several tracks, right?
Some are deeper than others.
Yeah.
I would recommend to the P and Z committee not to accept, it's on the intersection, on the corner. I would not accept how many square yards of concrete that is.
Well, find out. You can't let Mr. Woods know that he's not gonna get acceptance from P and Z unless that concrete's fixed, changed, patched, whatever. Because we're hearing from P and Z that that's not gonna be acceptable. Okay? All right, good enough. All right, thank you very much. All right, yeah, there we go. All right, and there, Terry, Terry, my mic was in a tunnel because we were looking at, I apologize for that, Terry, saying that it was hard to hear me because I had the computer turned around and it was facing towards, Chris Cooper, so I apologize for that. All right, let's go ahead and move on now, if we can, with the Quercus invasive species report.
I was hoping that they would be here. I don't see them.
But Alex is here.
Oh, you just logged in?
Yep.
He emailed me and I got the email, so I just sent him the call in.
Yeah, Alex is
Oh, cool.
actually logged in here, and Alex, I'm gonna turn you up here so that everyone can hear you.
All right. Yeah, thanks. Just in the nick of time, found the Zoom link. Thanks, Anthony, and getting me plugged in here. So been following along and just want to keep things rolling here and don't want to take up too much of your time. I noticed some of the participants of our walk around are there at City Hall, so that's good to see. So we had our walk around this Saturday morning. We had 4 residents join us and had a good time, about an hour and a half walking through the parcel up above City Hall, the hill up to Bicentennial Park, over to Volunteer Park, and then trespassed a little down Mike's driveway to get out to the bike path. The walk around went well, and now I want to talk a little bit about the report, but also just wanted to mention for those of you who weren't able to make it, if you ever see me around town or see any Quercus staff around town, we're pretty friendly folks. So feel free to stop us and ask questions if you have anything come up or literally pop up in your yard that you don't know what it is. We're always there to answer any questions. So, okay, so I'll try to do this and share my screen here. There we are. And we'll start with the report quickly, and then I think the maps that I touched on last time will be more valuable and kind of paint a better picture, especially in this setting. So, but we'll start here and go through this a little quickly. That it was provided in your packet, and then also we'll make sure that it gets posted online for everyone to see. As I mentioned last time, the purpose of this report was really to locate and document the invasive species within the city of Riverdale. We weren't doing targeted control just yet. There were a few populations of things that we just couldn't help ourselves on. Some of it, like the Japanese knotweed down near Peggy's Park, I think already got a little control. So we went through and we did a botanical survey of the 4 areas, really 8 parcels. And let me just quick switch that map so you have an idea. And here's kind of at least a idea of the shapes that we looked at, and we'll talk about what all the colors are and what they mean. But for the most part, it was the Arconic property around Mike's house, and then the property there with the bike path that comes down, and then the lot behind City Hall that we mentioned, and then the woods up Manor Drive, all through there, and then the parcel over off of Fieldcrest and to the northwest portion of town, and then also in the southwest, there's the wood lot there, and then also near the Chrissy house. Those were our main areas of focus as we worked through town. We also did note a few other populations, like I mentioned, in some near Peggy's Park and a few other small areas. So back to the report here. So in each area, we would go through and look to see what invasive species were present. We visited each parcel 4 times throughout the growing season in 2020, and then wrote down what was there, and then also classified it on its density. And so you can see here the invasion classification. This is a fairly well-used classification model, and shows the isolated, scattered, prevalent, and dense kind of visualization there of what you would find. And essentially, if it's isolated, it's 1 or 2 kind of just individuals of species that kind of aren't that prevalent yet. Scattered gets a little more, and then prevalent is kind of consistent throughout the area, and dense obviously is dense and can't hardly get through the area or take a few steps without noticing that species. So we ranked each species isolated, scattered, prevalent, or dense for each area. And that really helps when you go to the management portion, that you'll know what to expect, and also what how many resources you'll kind of need, but then also as you do control, if things are starting to get better or worse, you can you'll have a baseline as well. So the biodiversity index we did as well. This was asked in the report. It does show a few things that were interesting and that I wouldn't have expected. And that's good. That's why we do these. But for the most part, a lot of these areas were at some stage of degradation. And so this diversity index often is weighted towards really high quality areas. So we had to do a little manipulation there to kind of get things to even out, so that in a way that would provide something useful. And so we'll look at those numbers down here. And then hazard trees, we went through and started marking hazard trees and taking some out, but mainly marking them. And then the derecho hit, and that changed also some of the where the hazard trees were or weren't. And then also we came down for a week or for a day, and then part of 1 week, and started cleaning up some trees. And then last week, George rented the chipper and we started working on some other ones. So we've inventoried the hazard trees that were close to roads, trails, really any place that pedestrians, could have a hazard. If it was in interior on one of the larger woodlots, wasn't marked for removal. And especially after the windstorm. So municipal dump site was asked for this report. We looked at a few spots, and really, I think this, we got as far on Saturday just talking about kind of who owns the land in what parts, and how kind of the land use has developed in some of these areas. So that helped quite a bit. And I think that this is something that is by far up to the council, and we tried to give our best opinions on what kind of areas we thought would be the best, but for invasives, but also access and current use and things like that. So the results on this one are right in front of us, so I can talk about that quick. So essentially, the current dump site location is at Bicentennial Park, and it's on the wood line, kind of back by the tower, and not ideal because it's pretty visible, and just on the edge of one of the main city parks. So looked around. Also, the where the dump site is right on top of the root systems of some pretty nice oak trees. We'd want to do our best to try to save those and relocate the dump site. So looked around a little bit. Fieldcrest Road has potential, but as you know, would take a lot of work really to gain any type of reasonable access with a truck or a machine. The Cressy House, it's pretty visible, and it would take I think some work, but it could. The Cressy House or the house down on there off of State Street really has a lot of potential for a lot of things. I think that it could be a municipal kind of gathering space that did have somewhat of a maybe a drop site or dump site and recycling type access, but that's well down the road. So really the most reasonable solution we saw was off of Windsor Drive. It does go through Arcanic property, and so that would have to be discussed, but there is a kind of a 2-track trail gravel trail that runs there. It would continue the road, essentially path, bed, and then tuck back in there. There's, some old fields and tree lines that could be used for trucks to be able to turn around and also to be able to dump. So we're talking about like leaf debris and clippings and grass clippings. So when I say dump, I don't mean trash or anything like that. So that seems like the best solution. And here it is. So feel free to take a look and read it over. And I think this is something that really, a one-page summary with a few locations is just meant to be kind of the jumping point for your discussion. And I would really think I'd like to be a part of that as well. I think with some of the landscaping stuff that we do and working with George, I think it makes a lot of sense to relocate it, and I might be happy to help with that.
So Alex, real quick, just
Yeah.
To ask, this would be for yard waste, leaves, things like that?
Yeah. Yep. And also invasive plants. And so I think that's where it fit into this report originally was if we start removing invasives and if we get the town involved, all pulling garlic mustard, what do we do with them too? And I think this could provide a solution that you could allow invasive plants to be there, and then it's kind of what we do at our shop and other areas do, that you confine it all to one spot and then you can watch and control it, burn the debris when it's appropriate, but then spray any invasive seeds that generate in that area. So, but yeah, leaf debris, trees, sticks, hazard tree material that comes down, all natural waste like that. So
Okay.
okay. So on the report, we broke it into 4 management units. That really, that's what they are management units. So it would be hard to define the parcel lines if you were walking in here. And so this is how we would manage the property. So each unit has a, is named kind of by its location. So this is the Manor Drive Woodland. So I won't read it all to you. I'll just try to do it quick kind of explanation of what's going on here. So we surveyed this area, the Manor Drive Woodland. You can see some of the numbers here. And then the priority ranking is something we did. We added extra just for you to be able to kind of tell among the units, which is kind of the highest priority, obviously. So, so this 2 out of 4 it has a dry mesic forest present. It also has an oak woodland natural community. The oak woodland is more in area 2. It's kind of like right along Manor Drive and then up the hill where there is a good oak canopy present. The invasive species that were present are listed here. You can read through these. I think the more telling thing is here, the threats. So the threats in this area: black locust, buckthorn, honeysuckle, garlic mustard, Dame's rocket, and then medium, tree of heaven, multiflora rose, motherwort, creeping bellwort. And so we talked about this on our walk around. There's a lot of plants out there, and some are worse than others, and we recognize that we're not going to eradicate every invasive plant and from everywhere in the world. And it really it's more a matter of triage, really, and creating areas that natural kind of systems can still take place and native species can still use and expect to regenerate. And so like I said on the hike, we're not we don't think we're going to get rid of all the garlic mustard throughout all of Iowa. That's not the goal. It's to maintain some areas of natural habitat so that the species that can't use garlic mustard and can't use those areas can still persist. So you can still walk around with your kids and expect to see, sparrows and warblers and woodpeckers and all of that, and not just red-winged blackbirds landing on honeysuckles. So that's where these threats kind of really play out. And for each management unit, you can look and see, and then that's where we would start our management, is on the high threat ratings. Okay, so we did this for each area. And like I said, you guys have a long night, so you can read through this. What I want to touch on is kind of these first two areas. So the one I just talked about on Manor Drive, and then these Eastwoods and Oldfield. These are priorities 1 and 2, and they show the most potential for restoration. So this area, Eastwoods and Oldfield, does have some good oak woodland as well, just to the west of Mike's house, and then also the old fields did show potential for prairie restoration for sure, or even old field surrogate grassland habitat. So again, it's listed out here. Oh, the one thing I didn't mention, the biodiversity index of the last one and this one, and then also the stability index. So the stability index is just that. It tells you kind of how stable this area is compared to invasion. And so if you look back at the last one, 65%, that it's hard to say, well, that doesn't seem great. But it's it's a little relative. So this one is 89%, so closer, and then or at least higher, and more stable, so less likely to shift out of its current state of oak woodland. And then, but as you get some of these other ones, 52%, that's a little less, and that is skewed a little bit because area 7 is so much higher quality than area 6. But then as you get to area 8, 41%. And so that's a good way to look at it. Essentially 41 to 89%. The area near Mike's house is twice, or this area is twice as likely to really convert to something other than its current state. So, which is, you can see on the ground, it's a lot of Osage orange and black locust and honeysuckle, and there's not a lot of oak regeneration right now in that area. So it's shifting as we speak, kind of. So that's a lot of information, and I'm sorry I bumped around on that. There's way more in here and to unpack and talk about. But I think as you read through it, it'll make more sense, and really go back and compare some of the diversity index and stability index numbers to each other. And so we have that in the table here. I put the quick summary table in as an attachment. And so it shows the number of species that were present, and then the ranking that we put on them, and the stability index. So essentially, this gets a little complicated, so I don't want to bore you any more than I already have. But what was interesting about this was that actually area 7 really stood out, and so it was lumped in with area 6 for management, which is how we would manage this. But then when we were doing the stability indexes, and we found that area 7 really shows the high potential for restoration, and there's some big oaks in there, and there's a lot of nice native ground cover, and so that makes sense to why those numbers came out that way. So so let's switch to the maps then, and wrap this up. So the maps that were provided, here's the natural communities map.
You didn't
So-
switch.
You can't see this?
Nope.
Okay. How do I do that? You are sharing. You share. Okay. There.
There we go.
All right. Great. Oh, so you probably didn't see this earlier when I added up either then, so apologize for that. So, all right. So this is the natural communities map. So there was a set of 6 maps, kind of the overview, and then this is the communities. So it is colored kind of like green, yellow, red, essentially stoplight. So green is the best. That's a little superlative term, but green is the higher quality. Oak woodland, dry mesic forest is more of a cherry basswood type, but still good native woodland. And then red is that successional forest, so in a state of change or dominated by invasive species in the canopy. And then orange is really not related to those. It's just signifies the prairie or the grassland habitats that are up off the Scott Community Drive. So if you, sorry, if you kind of just look at it like this, there we go. So here's the natural communities map. Here's the invasive species effort map. Same thing, green, yellow, red. You can start to make inferences on, okay, what areas are highest priority? Probably these oak woodlands that have the highest quality. So areas 7, excuse me, and then Manor Drive. And then if you click over, you can see, okay, if they're important, let's take the area behind City Hall, the slope behind City Hall. So right now you can see that it's a successional forest mainly, so red and yellow and invasive species effort. So that would take, right now it's needs a lot of work, and it would take a lot of work to get it back to where it needs to be, but not as much as maybe some of the others. So it's a relative thing there that then you have to decide if that area is important to you, and it is likely. It's a pretty focal area, and so even though it would take moderate effort, and it's currently in a kind of successional stage, maybe it's still worth restoring and exploring what that would look like. Then on the flip side of the coin, if you look at just the woodlands up a little by Bicentennial Park and Manor Drive, you can see that they're low effort, and they're oak woodlands, they're green. So it's something that's already established, and less chance of shifting over due to invasives, and then would take less effort. So that signifies that might be a place to start, and could be pretty cost effective restoration done in that area. And so you can use these 2 maps together like that, and I think it kind of helps at least paint the picture, along with the rankings, on where you'll want to focus your efforts, at least restoration wise, ecologically, and invasive species wise. There's a lot of other things that come into play. What the area is used for, how visible is it, who owns it, all kinds of stuff like that, that will be up to the council and the residents to kind of make those decisions. Here's a quick map of the dump site locations that we talked about. And like I said, the green one was the one that we proposed that continues off Windsor Drive there, and kind of tucked back in, and hazard trees. So, okay, so yep, threw a lot at you there. Hopefully you'll have some time, some light reading to do sometime to read the report. Let's see if I can get back here. Do I have any questions right off the bat?
Go ahead there.
Yep.
This is Doug. I was on the tour with you.
Yeah. Hi, Doug.
You did say something about some of them oak trees up there by the park. They had something.
Oh, yeah. So those showed signs of oak wilt. So there's a tree, a large red oak tree, right near the top of the hill, that has a large crack and is kind of showing signs of oak wilt. So oak wilt's a fungal disease that that'll invade stands of oaks. It is more detrimental to the red oak family. So white and bur oaks often don't die because of oak wilt. They'll maybe they'll lose a branch or part of the tree, but red oaks are pretty susceptible at a high rate. And unfortunately, it seems that that's some of the oaks along the Manor Drive there. So we'll keep an eye on that and watch. And if that tree does have oak wilt at its current stage, it'll start showing signs of mortality this year, likely, and even definitely by next year. So. And so that's a really good point. If that's something that's going on up there, there are some options. There's not a lot of great options, but there are some if there some really big trees that we want to save, further south in Bicentennial Park.
Okay.
Hey,
Sorry.
I know there's a lot of Creeping Charlie that's adjacent to the road on Manor going up the hill.
Yeah.
Is that native or is that a concern at all?
So that's an introduced species. It doesn't invade natural areas. So really it'll invade lawns and playgrounds and things like that. So we don't worry about it too much in natural area management. It's more of a garden concern. There are some other plants that are right on that edge too, though. The garden squill that we found is one of those, is a garden invasive and typically not very aggressive, but yet we found a pretty large patch going down from the top down to Manor Drive from Bicentennial Park. So we talked with Terry. It was likely planted there with a lot of other ornamentals at the time, of the West Hill house, I believe is what the site was, or some other houses that were up there. So those garden invasives can be an issue. And so Creeping Charlie, it's where do you draw the line kind of on that one. We have other things higher on the list that we don't typically go look for that one too much. It's ubiquitous and it's in everybody's yard and it's in every, but it really, if you have at least somewhat of a stable natural system, it tends to stay out of that.
So Alex, I'm going to ask you, are you done presenting here? Because I'm going to go ahead and go back to having the whole group on the screen, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that sounds good.
All right, there we go. All right, no, thank you very much. I don't know, does anyone else have any other questions for Alex?
No, thanks, Alex. I thought it was very interesting.
Sorry about that. You bet. Thank you very much, Alex. Much appreciated.
All right, thank you. And like I said, if you have any questions at any time, send me an email or hunt us down when we're in town.
Oh, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, so that's, thank you very much for Alex for participating. Pardon me? Oh, Steve, yeah, go ahead.
I was on the walk with Doug.
Oh, can you come here so we can get you on the screen here? Here we go. This is Steve Townsend, ladies and
Oh, yeah.
gentlemen.
Hi, Steve.
Oh, I was on the tour Saturday with Doug.
Yeah.
And one other, I didn't catch his name.
Yeah, good to see you.
The tour, very informative, very helpful. This report's very comprehensive, complete, and it can be implemented incrementally. You don't have to do everything the first year. You can take bits and bytes as we go along. Bicentennial Park, the perimeter along a lot of species has poison ivy, multiflora rose, and toadweed, which shouldn't be in a park, and we should probably hit those this year.
Good.
And barbed wire.
Well, the barbed wire is coming up.
Yeah, we got the barbed wire later in the agenda. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Steve. Much appreciated. I warned you guys, this is going to be a little rough here, so thank you for sticking with us. Let's go ahead and if we can move on with the agenda, let's get a quick report from Chris Bernard and the fire department.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Report from April 19th through the 3rd of this month. We had a couple of different calls. 426, we had an EMS call on State Street. Again on 426, another call, EMS call on Belmont. And on the 27th, there was a gas leak up on Fenno Drive. As far as our training stuff goes, we did our normal preventive maintenance on some of the vehicles. We also replaced a bunch of light fixtures down in the truck bay. We had some old T12 fluorescent light fixtures that were going out. So we replaced those with most of them, still a few left to do with LED fixtures. We had the meat smoking class that we discussed at one point. That was on a Saturday and a Sunday. I had a really, really good turnout. And actually there was, we passed out some flyers. I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time. We passed out some flyers to basically see how people, what they liked about the thing and if they were interested again. And there was a lot of interest. And so it sounds like we may do another one come October possibly. But we'll keep everyone informed if anyone would be interested in doing that. They're talking about more of a holiday themed thing. So it's going to be, instead of brisket, it'll be prime rib and possibly lamb. So I'm looking forward to that myself. We also did some cleanup down in the station, getting ready for our firefighter of the year ceremony that we did, and also did a run through on that on Monday. And then I forgot to put it in here, but the firefighter of the year award ceremony was on that Saturday.
Yep.
It was in that weekend. I get confused. There's a lot going on. And that turned out very well. We had a few people from the city down. We keep an eye on things, and we were glad to see them. We actually had some leftover meat from the smoking class that we hadn't actually smoked, that a couple of the guys in the department smoked, and we actually had everyone stick around and fed them all lunch. So it was a good turnout and a good time. As I saw on the agenda, it's talking about that later on. Do you want me to talk about that now or just?
Yeah, we could go ahead and discuss it now.
We don't have a whole lot other than we did. There was a plaque that was awarded to Annalise's family, so they have it. And then we also have, see if I can get a good view of it. There we go. This is the one that was awarded to the department to hold for her. Something changed. All right. Anyway, so we're going to at some point put this up down on the station, find a good location for it. Actually, I've talked with the mayor a little bit and I'm making some very, very preliminary thoughts about possibly come up with some kind of a display case up here in the city hall for things like this and maybe some other historical things from the fire department. So we're, like I said, that's still, pencil on paper, not making any real progress on that yet, just kind of looking into something we'd like to maybe look into doing. So. But other than that, that's really all I had. Like I said, the event went really well, and thanks for everyone that could attend.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. Do any members of council have questions for Chris?
Chris, you guys have a water show coming up or a water?
Yes, I believe our water fight, actually, the quickest way to do this, Randy is listening. And if he wants to message me, he can tell me the date on that, because I don't know if I have it on my calendar on this computer.
Sorry.
No, not at all. I can see his.
Randy Bowers is on the meeting, so maybe Randy, if you could share that information, we'll make sure that the community knows when the big water fight is scheduled for City Hall. Great. Okay.
June 12th.
June 12th.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, super. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. Thanks to the members of the fire department and everything. We're looking forward to more reports here coming up shortly. Let's move along now, if we can, to the Public Works report. Kent, do you want to go ahead and you got to turn the computer around? So, okay, there we go.
I have, the only thing I have is his task detail. It's been busy. He's painting the kiosks up in the park. Doing some other things around town, so he's very busy.
Okay, and we do have a note here from Terry, just if you can add this to the to-do list here. Kent, a resident mentioned that there's a street light, two that are burned out at the base of Manor Drive entering the highway. Don't know if that's a DOT thing or if that's ours.
We'll look at
To
it.
replace those lights on the street.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you very much, Terry. Appreciate it. All right, let's move along now, if we can, to the new business here that we've got. Unless there's a comment or a question going forward, we'll go ahead and keep things moving along. We do have some resolutions. The first one is a resolution approving and authorizing the cost sharing agreement between the city of Riverdale and the Iowa American Water Company for the construction of Fenno Road. This is the portion of Fenno Road that was destroyed by the water main blowout. I'm going to ask Kent to give everyone a quick rundown of that situation.
Well, we're starting the process. This is the agreement that Iowa American Water, Chris Cooper, and your city engineer, Paul Basic, has reviewed. It gives us enough control over the review process, as well as we're named as insurer. We also have a warranty bond. We also have the opportunity, once the bids come back, Chris to review them, as well as you to approve them. It specifically lays out what we're going to do and what they're going to do and who's going to pay for what. And so that's where we are.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on that? Yes, Paul. Go ahead. You could just talk, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was a little surprised that they weren't taking more responsibility for some of the damage that was done. So I saw that we were accepting replacing the storm sewer and
Kent, do you want to
Yeah.
respond to that?
I'm looking for the agreement itself. That's all it's probably here. We are doing the manhole, we are doing the stormwater chimneys located on the bottom of the hill. We are replacing those. Those weren't necessarily damaged by them. They were damaged they just wore out. And so that is one of the issues that we're dealing with. The sanitary sewer isn't damaged. We're not replacing anything, are we, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead. Come on up. Okay. All right. Chris Cooper is joining us now. There we go.
So the sanitary sewer itself was not damaged. In fact, I believe the Iowa American Water Company has been paid to relocate one of a lateral, so it's better positioned to serve adjacent lot. What is old and worn out is what we call the chimneys to the manholes. That's the top couple feet of the manhole, and they are badly decayed, rusted, and that's not the fault of the water main break. That's because we've got old sanitary sewer manholes there.
it does say all storm sewer and associated equipment repairing or replacement. So I was under the impression that the water main break actually compromised under the road and maybe damaged.
It didn't damage the storage sewer, it just damaged the foundation for the road and the pavement for the road. And the curb and gutter too.
And when we went we actually paid a company and then they ended up paying them but when we went to scope, we didn't see anything bad. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we're just covering us if there is any, if there is any work that needs to be done once we get in there, then we'll be responsible. But right now, there isn't any work to be done. But once we get there, just covering themselves.
Nope, that's good.
I was like throwing.
Yep. Great. Any other questions for Kent on this agreement? Okay, great. I need him. Kent, why don't you walk us through real quick the process here?
Well,
Because I think that was one of the concerns. It's like, is this resolution basically authorizing the go ahead on the job? And the answer to that's no,
No.
because we don't have pricing yet, but we have to authorize this in order to be able to get the bids.
Yeah.
You go ahead. Who's got the responsibility on this?
So they are responsible for design. Right now, if we approve this, we're saying to them, hey, we're going to pay for this, or we will more than likely pay for this, design it, and then we'll pay for it. And that's where we are. So it's kind of a weird situation, something you don't run into very often, where somebody else damages something. Well, I mean, it is, but to this level where somebody's replacing a whole road as well as other pieces. So right now we need to approve this so that we can get to design work and Chris can get to the review stage. And I was hoping that Chris had the review on last Friday, but maybe it's this week. So we'll have to check to see where that engineering is.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, Kent, but the way I understand this is that Iowa American is essentially the lead on this. So they have hired an engineer to do the basic engineering work, like to design the road and all that kind of stuff. Chris is representing the city in making sure that we have that backstop. So when the plans and everything come to the city for review and approval, they go to Chris first to make sure that everything's in code, everything looks good, everything passes muster, or if there's a problem that the flag is raised. And before you guys ever see it, it gets worked out first. Is that basically
Correct.
right? Okay.
Correct.
So that's kind of the position that we're in. We're sort of in the secondary position where we will pay for some of the work because we were going to have to do the work anyway to make sure that everything was set. But we are not paying for the work that can be tracked back to the fact that their water main blew out and now they've got to replace the roof.
There's two points of this agreement that weigh in the city's favor. One is the sanitary sewer lateral for 1052 Valley Drive, which is being replaced by them. The other advantage to the city is they are paying for all curb cuts related to the project. There will be, I think, 4 curb cuts.
Mhm.
So those are an advantage too. And those are about, I'm gonna guess, $3,000, Chris, ballpark and things. So we're doing well. You're doing well.
Okay, great. Yes, Doug, go ahead.
When they replaced, did Iowa American replace the one that initially went out at the top of the hill? And is that part of fixing the hill?
Yes, it will run, the repair will run from
Good question.
inside outside Fennel and into Valley, up the hill to
Fennel Drive.
Here's my test, Fennel Drive, 20 feet on one side and 20 feet on the other side. So they repaired that and just put a Band-Aid on that water main in front of, I think it's the Scott residence.
Yeah.
Scott residence. And then they'll repair that top of the hill all the way down into Valley. So at some point we'll have to close Valley.
Right.
At some point.
That's what I was wondering. We're gonna have to do an emergency exit out of,
You think?
when they close it, we're gonna have to do something.
I think we'll have to have a construction meeting with all the neighbors involved, and that's one thing I'd like the residents to know along that street. The Mangles residents has called me a few times. We'll have to have some sort of plan on what to do with those people because it will be, the Mangles will be impacted and so will I think it's the Adolfingers will also be impacted.
Right, so how long well, we can talk about this once we get the plans, then we can start projecting how much time we're talking about as far as an inconvenience to those
Yeah.
residents up on the hill.
Yeah, we need the bids. We need the bids and we need the construction.
Okay.
engineering done. So just the agreement right now, and then
Right.
we'll worry about the engineering and Chris's phase, and we'll get that done.
So this agreement just is the first step
First step,
in getting
baby
this,
step.
in getting this process underway. All right.
That's the plan.
Any other questions from members of council? Hearing none, I need a motion and a second so we can consider the resolution.
So
I have a
second.
motion from Doug, I have a second from Anthony. Real quick, let me poll the council, see if you guys have any amendments that you want to offer to this, or adjustments, or any concerns that might require further consideration. Kevin, you got anything that pops into your head on this?
No.
Okay, Kevin's a no. Kelly? Paul? Doug?
No, I'm good.
Anthony, you're our engineer. If there's a problem, it's all your fault. Oh, okay. It could be.
I just take the good stuff. Isn't that how that works?
Yeah.
Good cop, bad cop? I don't know, anyway. All right.
One of these two guys works for the government.
Definitely a government.
Anthony's involved with floodwater component.
Yeah.
Is that-
No, that's,
Okay.
there you go.
Good
I
point.
will, I think that's where you'd call me. It should we say something in here, or maybe, I guess it can be done in a later thing too, about making sure that there is an access kept open for all residents at all times? I can't imagine that that's not just standard practice, but I had a construction project at my house one time, and I had a back alleyway, and I was like, can you still let me get to my garage? And they had to put in a new road for me. But you had to ask.
Mhm.
I don't know. We don't have that kind of an issue here, I don't think, but
This is a cost sharing agreement, but I mean, would I want to cover that cost? Because
Or at least
the
part of it.
reason you have to have it is because
Mhm.
of something that there's that, didn't work.
Yes, Chris?
So I like Anthony's comment, but we didn't discuss an alternate route. We discussed EDA construction.
Right.
So it's just the side of the road, There's always a route for cars to go through. So I think it's worth adding that it's our understanding this will be space construction. So we'll keep access open to the residents, so we don't have to create this alternate access. Yeah, but I think that's a good comment.
Because when they get to the top of the hill there, and they're working on that, everybody this way, west, they're gonna have a heck of a time because of where that water main is located. Yeah, I mean, it's dead center and where that road
Yeah,
goes,
but that's also just, they're not gonna be working on their water main for 3 months.
but I'm at the road when they fix it. They're only gonna do half?
Mhm.
No, but you can drive on gravel. and
Yeah,
then-
we'll make, one of the things that I've seen in my travels is that we can make a temporary road over every night so that people can get to their cars and their houses and stuff every night. Just to gravel and roll it, and we'll try to make it so that people are impacted as little bit as possible, but I don't think we're there yet. I think once we see the engineering drawings, then we can say, hey, and we meet with the residents, because that's the plan here, is then we have a construction meeting with the residents and to make sure that they're aware of everything's going on, and make sure we involve the fire department, make sure that they can get up there and that kind of stuff, because it's gonna be a mess. I mean, it's gonna be a mess.
Well, when you talk gravel, I live on a hill that used to be gravel.
Yeah.
And, we were constantly picking their gravel off at the bottom of the hill
Yep,
when it rained hard. So that's what you're gonna be running up against now. Hopefully that won't happen, but I mean, there is that chance. As steep as that hill is.
So if I can kind of paraphrase what I'm hearing, a suggestion from Anthony possibly as an amendment to this resolution is, say for section 2, to say that the council asks the mayor and staff to discuss staging construction in such a way that residents are able to get in and out of their homes throughout the entire construction process. Is that close?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yep.
So are you okay with that as an amendment?
So amended.
Okay, so I have a motion for an amendment from Anthony. I need a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we now have an amended resolution. Katie, you're listening to this in the future. You need to go ahead and amend the resolution, presuming it passes, but you'll know that in here in a second. Okay, so we have an amended resolution in front of us that authorize us to go ahead and execute orders, contracts, and other documents related to this project so that we can go ahead and move forward and get costs and things like that. And also instructions to staff and to the mayor to make sure that it's made clear to Iowa American that we're on construction staged in such a way that residents are able to get in and out throughout the entire construction process. We have a motion, we have a second. I'll go ahead and just ask real quick, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries, so the resolution passes. All right, so that resolution passes as amended. Let's move along to the next resolution. This is resolution number 2021-20. This is a resolution entering into an engineering services agreement with MSA to perform the evaluation of preliminary construction engineering for Woods Estates Phase 3. And I'm going to ask Chris to come back up and talk a little bit about what all is entailed here so that we've got a good idea of what we're approving. This is a contract for $4,500, correct, sir?
So this is not for preliminary, this is the final construction plans.
Okay,
Sorry.
Preliminary was already done back in your first part of your.
That's right.
tenure, Yeah, so it's for final, it's basically just to review the plans, and once they meet your codes and accept the standards of the state of Iowa, how Mr. Woods and the city proceeds from there is up to you guys.
anybody's guess.
Yeah, so there was talk about him hiring an engineering firm for
Mhm.
construction, observation, or testing or something like that. But
Right.
yeah, but this is just for the plan review. It's not a unit, it's not a lump sum contract. It's just a time and materials contract because it's really beyond our control. The quality of plans that are submitted to us and how fast the changes get made, it's totally up to Mr. Woods. So it's just time and materials and basically with a cap not to exceed. If we get to that cap, we ask the city's authorization to go beyond it, but we don't think we will, but who knows?
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, any questions for Chris on this? We clear as to what we're looking at?
Is
Yes, sir.
not a question for Chris, probably a question for Kent. Is this a charge that will go to the TIF fund or not?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is eligible. And yes, it could be handled either way, where the developer could pay for it, and yes, it is eligible. You
Okay.
have both options open to you as a city.
Right, so for historical purposes, when we were talking about this a couple phases ago, we were talking about, we wanted to try to keep a budget of around $7,500 per phase for engineering services related to the review of plans and getting to the point where we can go ahead and kind of move on to the next step. Seth went from 6 phases down to 3 phases, and this is kind of like the first half of what we're talking about. This is the review of the plans and everything. There will be a second piece associated when the work is all done and he's ready to turn things over. So this is pretty much keeping within those guidelines. All of those expenses we're planning on certifying those so that they can be collected back through the TIF.
We'll do that in December.
Yeah, okay, and I think, I mean, and I guess let's say too, I think a key thing here is obviously Bettendorf's not gonna work with it, well, I'll assume Bettendorf's not gonna work with us on phase 3.
It's not working with us, it's working with Seth. And they're not gonna work with Seth either.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
anyway.
That's different than what we're proposing.
No, I know, no, but hold on, I'm getting there, sorry, I do know, but I just wanna say, like, after the report, we saw the final inspection from Chris about phase 2 today. This is the value of having a good inspection during construction to make sure that, you know, if somebody would have been out there looking at it and seen the coyote prints day 1 when the concrete was still wet, we would have got that fixed and we wouldn't have had to be spending more money. I mean, it's not our money, it's getting spent, but I mean, a good inspection right during the process. Again, I understand it's not this, but I just be thinking about that as we're talking about the money we're gonna spend down the road here too. So anyway, that's
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions on this agreement? Okay, I need a motion in a second so we can consider it. I have a motion from Kelly. I have a second from Doug. Okay, any concerns, any need for any amendments? Anything? I'm seeing nada, nada, nada. Great, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Congratulations, there we go. See how much easier this is when we're not on. That is the last phase.
Yep,
And the housing market is going absolutely crazy if you guys haven't noticed. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to the next resolution, 2021-21. It's like a bad 60s pop song. Okay, this is a resolution entering into an engineering services agreement with MSA to perform the engineering services for the parking lot improvements for both the fire department and city hall. Chris, take it away.
So first of all, my apologies to your administrator. My understanding is the fire department parking lot is the priority. But when I started putting costs together, it just made sense to get both of them designed, take care of the advantage of the amount of work for less cost, and then just put the city hall or the staff and the guest parking lot on the shelf to build at a later date. So that was the proposal I submitted to you. I thought there was better value in that. I made an executive decision.
Okay, so this covers really kind of what we would consider to be two projects.
So,
Yeah, two
well,
separate.
it covers the design and the construction observation for the fire department and just design for the staff and guest parking there. Ken, I also apologize. It was my understanding in listening to you that the city's going to take care of bidding this. So I took that out of our contract. So
trying to keep the cost down on this project.
So that's basically what it covers. It's a lump sum contract. And any questions?
One question. Is this in 2022 budget or?
Yeah, that's a good question, because actually what was in the proposed capital plan in the fiscal 22 budget was money for the back parking lot. So we never really talked about a rough guess as to what we thought this out front would cost. So, but, that's one of those situations we had, I believe, in the fiscal 22 budget, going off the top of my head, because I don't have I do have my paperwork here. Hold on a second. I can tell you. And this gets to a question that I had for Kent, Chris, actually. What's the good cost per square foot for a parking lot?
I can't answer that off.
Got a rough guess?
No.
Okay.
We do it by square yard.
You do it by square yard?
It is by square yard, but
He doesn't like to do that.
Okay, because we have $60,000 in the budget for the parking lot.
Come up with the square yard for engineer, that's RSD. You can look it up.
yeah, don't use RSNs for small projects. You'll get both.
So that's what we had, was a city hall parking lot budget of $20,000, or I'm sorry, $60,000. Yeah.
So, okay, so Chris, so with this contract, you would be redesigning the two parking lots?
Yes.
And do they need to be redesigned? Or do we just need new concrete?
Well, you need new concrete, but for the fire department one's fairly straightforward. I just need to design the concrete for loading of a fire truck on it. They were talking about modifying the drainage in the staff and guest parking area, so that does need to be redesigned, yes. Plus, they want to redesign the handicap access there, so we don't have a ramp sticking out into the parking area. So yes.
And also, I think design is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, but when we talk about design, we also talk about everything that goes under the surface as well, as far as like all that design work, all the engineering work to facilitate both drainage and to make sure it can carry the load and stuff like that. It's not quite like when I design where something's going to go, it's all basically just kind of moving stuff around on a piece of paper. It's a little bit more to it than that.
Yeah, like that one seems to have failed early.
Yeah, that parking lot.
We're thinking the drainage is the main problem back there. That's what we're thinking. But we don't, that's why we need to design it.
Okay. I guess the only reason I was asking if you had a good ballpark number for for a parking lot is just knowing that we had that budget in of about 60 grand for the parking lot, the $14,000 for the engineering seemed like a lot, but now I realize that also includes the work for the front lot too, and everything. So, I mean, we need to kind of reconsider that capital expenditure, I think. So,
And Mike, if we don't, let's say we only spend 14,000 of that 60 this year,
Mhm.
and we took that money into a line item for next
Next
year.
year,
mhm.
just gotta save for it, take it. Put it in reserves.
If I could add there, if you got both lots constructed at the same time, you're probably gonna recognize a cost savings versus doing one lot one year and one lot the other year. So
So that's a really great question, Kelly, and a very salient point, Chris. So what's our status with the fire department entrance right now? Can we go another year?
Probably, I would think so. It seems to be holding up pretty good, actually holding up a lot better than I was expecting.
Okay,
I really thought winter was gonna tear it up and it didn't seem to. So I think we can probably hold on.
okay.
It's been 1 year since we fixed that. We did that in September when I first got here. I don't want to push too much more than 3 years on that.
Right, well, and that was, we
That's
knew that
really-
was just gonna be a temporary fix.
Yeah, it's a
anyway.
Band-Aid.
So,
It's really a Band-Aid.
so I don't know, it sounds to me like the smart thing to do is to design this year and then budget for it next year, and we'll take the money not spent out of the capital number for the parking lot repair, and we'll just put that, we'll just kind of earmark that for the coming fiscal year, and then just include money in the next budget after that to cover the difference. Does that sound
So our design will include a cost estimate,
okay?
so it's top your budgeting, but I do need to modify our design right now because our contract, because part of that is construction observation for the fire department entrance, so we're gonna take that out of there now, I'm just kind of hearing, so.
So with that clarification, do you want to kind of rework that and resubmit?
I do that, I feel better. doing that.
Okay, so is everyone okay with that? I'll execute a little executive privilege here. We'll pull this off the table and have Chris go ahead and refigure the number. And because Kent and I have a bet going as to what the cost per square foot is for a parking lot. So don't you dare tell him unless you tell me.
I thought you said something at the table, but I won't.
I did,
won't
but
do
I
that,
was
but
to you, and I
who
always get in
knows?
trouble when I say something.
I thought it had 2 5s in it, but I don't know.
That's right. Kent's decimal point is one space the wrong direction. We'll just leave it at that.
I make a motion to table 2021-21.
Excellent. We have a motion to table and a second. A motion from Doug, a second from Paul. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This will go under old business for the next agenda then. All right, so we are good. Let's go ahead and move along now if we can. This next item is we're now into the discussion agenda portion of the thing here. We've already talked about the report on the firefighter of the year ceremony. I apologize for not being able to be there. I had surgery the day before and was literally flat on my back that whole day. I was going like, man, I could be there, but I can't stand up. Okay, so, but much better now. Okay, budget and finance. I asked Kent to go ahead and put this on the agenda because I wanted to make sure that we had a chance, knowing that all that's left for the fiscal 22 budget now is a little formality that we'll have wrapped up by the next meeting. Here's the thing that came up out of this entire process. There is a need to kind of formalize and standardize our budgeting process, not only for the current or the coming fiscal year, but to try to come up with a good long-term plan so that we can have plans like what we talked about with the parking lot, where maybe we do the engineering work in 1 year and then we know we've got some tighter costs and we can build those things into our budgets. In conversations I'd had with Paul, it came up that maybe what we need to do is it would be helpful if we established a standing budget committee that was responsible for preparing that 5-year budget, for preparing the coming year fiscal budget, for handling the budget amendments and getting those prepared, and then to do cost benefit studies and cost analysis on different line items inside the budget to make sure that the city's really getting its money's worth. That could be that kind of committee could be, it could include a council member or two, but also include, we've got some citizens really that I think would provide great value in being involved in that. And so I'd like to go ahead and see if we could go ahead and do this. And Paul actually suggested that it might make good sense to have it established as an ordinance and really make it kind of fixed in law that it's something that we want to do. So I'm going to throw that out here for right now and ask you guys what you think about it. If it sounds like something you'd be interested in doing, we'll go ahead and get to work on kind of sketching that up, and we'll probably provide a memo first for additional input, and then we'll try to codify it. So let me go ahead and start off. Paul, you and this came about initially with the conversation you and I had, then Kelly and I talked about it a little bit more. I really haven't had a chance to go into a lot of detail with Kevin or Doug or Anthony about it, but I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, well, I guess just to flesh out a little bit of our discussion, some of the things that were on my mind was that if we can establish some funds that we're saying we're intending to do this, but then there's not necessarily continuity in the government all the time. So council members change, the mayor changes, and so you can have those intentions, but then there may not necessarily with a different group of people, they may not necessarily stick to that plan, and they may have a great deal of discretion about what happens to that, which could go spend on something that wasn't intended at that time for that long-term view, and then also, add other expenses. And so my thought was, gee, I'd really like to avoid kind of what happened from the period around 2012 to 15, where we just had a tremendous spike, so we had a lot of debt, and then we also were overtaxing. And I think ways to avoid it would be to actually have a little discipline around a 5-year budget planning process.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's okay to lay out a plan. Once we do have some of those changes, what ensures that kind of well-defined process continues? And I thought, well, I really like the idea of really making that be our city's process, and then hopefully we have an ordinance and people stay with the plan. Even with different people in the position, if you have a view, a long-range view, and there have been good participation from people in town, and those things can go forward, and people will continue to follow that process. I think it would really benefit us all to have more of a long-range view.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's good. Any other? Yeah, Doug.
Yeah, what Paul, I like what you said about that, because it actually happened. That 60.67. Initially, when we talked about it in council, part of that money was supposed to go towards buying fire trucks. Never happened. It went to 2 other things. So by what you're saying, that should be, when you do a budget over the years, you'll have that. You won't be able to say, well, the last council put this in as an ordinance, and they're gonna have to follow that this way, the next council. So that's a really good idea.
Okay, great. Kelly, anything you want to add?
I think that the committee should be advisory.
Mm-hmm.
They should be decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
But I do also agree that I think if we made it an ordinance, I think that that's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And I think you really need to have, I mean, clearly it would be a volunteer situation, but hopefully we would have some people who would volunteer who really understand the financial process.
Mhm.
And then like you and I talked about on the phone, maybe that's an opportunity for someone like me who really doesn't, because I am not a math, numbers, money person at
Mhm.
all. So, you know, maybe that's an opportunity for me to sit in and have a better understanding of how we forecast and budget and spend our money.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And in every case where we've been talking about setting up committees to go ahead and address issues, we've been really careful, I think, because of things that we've learned over time, to make sure that the decision-making and money spending authority really lies with the council. That every committee that we have still needs to comply with open records rules and with posting things and public notifications, keeping minutes and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to, is the city going to spend money to do something, or is it going to take specific action as a corporate body? Those are responsibilities for the elected officials. So no, I think those are all really good points.
Yeah, that's the idea, and then the process is what we're
Yeah.
really trying to do.
Yeah. Kev, this is all probably pretty new for you hearing the first time, but do you have any thoughts right now, or do you want to think about it some more?
No, my initial thoughts are, we have a hard time filling committees as it is.
Mhm.
You know, how many committees does a town of 400 need? The budget committee should be the city council. That should be the budget committee. And I mean, if you make, I'm not in favor of making an ordinance about it, because this is our responsibility as elected officials.
Mhm.
So if it goes south, the public speaks, as they did last time, and you make changes. You're getting into, you put a budget committee together, who's gonna be on the committee? How long they're gonna be on it for? What if, what if there's not enough people to fill the committee? I mean, there's so many unknowns.
Mhm.
To me, it's a city council responsibility that unfortunately is fluid, because the council is fluid, and the direction that the city, who knows what direction we need to go 5 years from now, or 10 years from now.
Well, you know, if we don't give an iota of thought to what we're gonna do in 5 years, we definitely won't know. So that's.
But we as a city council,
we haven't done a good job of looking out further in the future. And then we as a city council are responsible for approving the budget. But I think some effort needs to happen for a longer view of what is needed in the future. And we have those things. They're laying out there for us. We just haven't taken much time to actually identify what's our needs for 5 years from now. So, you know, I think.
why do you need a committee to do that, though? We have the committee right here. We should be looking at
I'm
it
not
all.
opposed to it. I'm just saying that I think we need to have a 5-year plan, and we need to make sure that future councils or whoever it is sticks to it. You know, so when I say stick to it, I'm saying stick to the process of continuing to look 5 years out. Because what I don't want to have happen is to have us go through another period where all of a sudden we're making the Riverdale portion be $13 per thousand of.
How would you feel if the previous council passed a resolution forcing you to do something that you didn't agree with?
Well, if it's detrimental to the city, I'd probably work to, you know, take it.
Who determines that it's detrimental?
The council does.
Right.
You know, what I'd say is having a $13 VAT or levy rate is detrimental to all the residents who live there. And to allow it to happen was the result of poor fiscal planning. The people that were in that position kind of let it just roll up on them and just let it happen. And we could be in a position where we have to pay that sort of thing again because we failed to look out ahead and avoid it. So I'd rather have a series of, you know, kind of more in the 6 range or 7 than to have something where we come around and get a 12 through 14 because, you know, something came up that we didn't bother to look for. But that's all I'm saying.
Something will come up that we can't see, guaranteed. I mean, that's what the future is I don't know.
More likely, something will come up that we fail to try to look for, and there's no excuse for that. I mean,
Well, sure there is. You can't, like,
it's a best practice to lay out a longer term plan.
our
It
Fennel
might
Drive,
not- it
our
might
Fennel
not.
Drive situation.
Yeah, we should have.
If we should have foreseen that?
Yes. We should have foreseen that road needs replacing in a certain.
I mean,
amount
do
of time.
you foresee a derecho? Do you plan for that?
No, you don't foresee.
Why not?
Be-
Because there's just things that you can't plan
You
for.
plan for replacing a fire engine.
There are some things you can plan
But if
for.
you don't, then you won't know until you're doing the budget that year. But if you do a 5-year plan, you'll say, in 3 years, we have to account for this cost. So that's what I'm saying. There's things that we will know that we have to account for. So let's do a 5-year plan, and let's not have a situation where we create a 5-year plan and next year we throw it out because we just chose not to look at it.
But so.
A
but
perfect-
Back to my point, though, if previous council before all of us put in a 5-year plan, that was totally ridiculous.
We would update it.
Right, so what's the point of having a
We
resolution?
don't have a 5-year plan.
If you can update it, I mean,
The point, you should.
it's a
update it
responsibility of
every
the
year.
council.
You should update your 5-year plan every year.
But we can do that.
We don't do a 5-year. plan.
But you didn't this year.
Well,
And which
why
is-
didn't we?
Because
I don't know, because I did 3 public intake sessions. I had a council work session. I had 2 town hall meetings, and I got no feedback.
But
So
how
this
did people
committee
do
that we're talking about, this council was not as engaged as you're thinking that it should be. So why is that? The fact is you do, and Steve will get to this, I'm sure. You go ahead and you set a plan and then you update it every year. It's all part of the process, but you have to have a structure so that you've got some controls around what you're doing. When we're talking about things like repairing a road that gets blown out by a water main or dealing with a derecho, there is actually a way to plan for that. And it's called having an emergency reserve to be able to go ahead and handle stuff like that when it occurs.
Don't we have that already?
No, we don't. We don't have any definition for how to use the general fund.
I thought we had a couple hundred extra thousand.
We do, but
We don't.
there's no definition, Kevin. There's no definition as to how that money should be used. That's the point. And that's where there's so much unease and discomfort when it comes to talking about, well, are we going to tax for this? We're going to pay for it out of the general fund surplus. The fact, what's going to happen is we're going to keep saying, oh, we'll just pay for this out of the general fund surplus. And we're going to nibble our general fund surplus down to the point where there is no general fund surplus. And then the next thing that comes along that we go like, well, we shouldn't tax for that. Let's just pay for that out of the general fund surplus. We're going to go like, well, there is no general fund surplus. So now we need to raise taxes.
Isn't this next year's budget and how you have all of these categories laid out?
Mhm.
Isn't that future plan? I mean, you had in for, you had a fire department expense in there.
Right.
Of like 25,000.
Right.
It was gonna get funded continuously
Right.
every year.
That's the plan. That was the proposal. Yeah.
Right.
And what we're talking about now is a structure to actually take that proposal and now build it out so that it's all just part of an ongoing process.
Yeah, I'd like to have a little more specificity that aligns something that's gonna be out a little ways. I mean, why are we putting that money aside?
Right.
We actually know some specific things.
There's actually a perfect example tonight that, and you were spot on, Kevin, in the last meeting talking about, maybe we need to take like the tree management thing and the invasive and the park, the playground equipment funds. Let's cut those in half until we got an idea of what we're going to do. Tonight, if you looked at that invasive species report, there's like 52 standing hazard trees that need to be removed. Now, as Steve pointed out, those all don't need to be removed next year. But what we do need to do is get an estimate of what we think it's going to cost and figure it out and budget for a little bit every year to go ahead and work on taking those out. 2 of those trees are down in Van Gundy Park and are like right next to the bike trail.
That's my point though, is you already have that category in the budget.
Right.
You had the thought process to do that.
Yeah.
Why, we don't
We're-
need a
I know,
committee to
but
tell
I'm not
us.
going to be the mayor next year. And I'm not gonna be doing the budget
You
next
put
year,
in the
unless I'm on the
tools in
budget
place
committee.
For future councils to look at that and to budget for that. The tools are already there, okay?
Mhm.
It's, my point is that you shouldn't, the tools are already there. It's up to the council to implement those tools. And so that, I don't know, I don't. know
Okay,
why you need
I
a
think-
committee and a resolution to do that. You already put that together.
Okay, Steve wants to chime in here. Go ahead, Steve. I'm gonna turn the camera around here so that you can go ahead and,
You don't need a resolution.
all right.
It's in Iowa code that you can have a budget committee.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to do it. I did this for a living for 31 years. I've been to 42 different military installations. We have an annual work plan for public works. This is what the city is, it's public works.
Mm-hmm.
You have labor, you have your employees, employee training, equipment, all the fire equipment. Everything has a replacement schedule. You don't have to replace it. Sometimes stuff lasts twice as long. Sometimes half. You may have to make adjustments. But we did an annual plan, a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, and a 20-year plan.
Mhm.
And this stuff, I did one MCA military construction army project that lasted 15 years. It was 250 million and 150 million in equipment. And I was a command fire marshal. I've been to the fire chief convention in Washington, DC. So you have a skill set here. I've been to many mayors with an annual work plan trying to present Eldon Hansen and others on how to do this. I just was not able to get anybody to move on. All this is possible. You get a couple aldermen, a couple citizens that have a skill set, and you just present it to the city council. When I was in public works, I went to the fire department. We looked at the aged equipment and what needed replaced. And I went to every department chief. We had plumbing, electrical, maintenance, repair, custodians, the whole thing. And it was set up and run, and I helped write the standards for the Army to inspect every building, every road, every roof. There's roofers, there's pavers, there's railers, all these core engineer systems. We don't need those, but it's out there and it's pretty much free. You just gotta look at it. We got grounds. There's funding for grounds. New construction, maintenance and repair, maintenance and repair, these were different funds. I had tenants that paid rent. I had to support their projects. It was I was tracking $1 billion for the Army Material Command. And all the numbers are out there, but the square foot, the square yard, the cubic yard, electrical, we made the power of the arsenal. And the heat, and the steam, and we've got an expert at the top of the hill that switched the boilers from the Rock Island Arsenal from coal to natural gas. There's experts in this town.
Mhm.
You just have to tap into them.
I nominate Steve.
Here for the committee. It's in there. I'm gonna throw them in today.
That's right. Right. Anthony, got anything else you want to add?
Just briefly, I will say, I work in a place that does 1-year budgets. And engineering projects work a lot better on other than 1-year budgets. Now, we do a lot smaller projects here, and most of them we can do in a year or 2 years, but I like the idea of a 5-year thing. I totally see what Kevin's saying about good luck trying to get more people to sign up for stuff though too. Although I guess if there was a committee that I would think would generate some interest, it would be what's going to set your tax rate out of all the committees we have, but I don't know. I mean, I'm open to hearing some ideas. I'd like to see are other cities doing something? I mean, like Steve's pointed out, there's something in the code, like what are our neighbors doing here? And let's do something better than Bettendorf does, right?
To piggyback on what Anthony's saying, so, I mean, it could be a voluntary committee, where if 4 out of 5 council members choose to join that committee, along with some residents and maybe Kent or whatever, we could, but if you would choose not to, you don't have to, because it's just an advisory committee. The committee could prepare a 5-year thing and say to council, well, here's what we think, how you should spend the money, and the council might look at it and say, yeah, we're not doing it. I mean, what does it hurt to do that?
Well, like, when you were talking, Doug, when you were talking about the money set aside for the fire department over all these years, and it didn't get spent.
It got spent, it just
Well,
got,
it
it
didn't
didn't get
on
spent.
what it was
On
intended
trucks.
for.
Right.
How do you change that? How do you force a council, whatever council's in there, how do you force them to spend, how do you prevent that?
If I guess I would be mayor or I would be God if I knew that answer.
But that's my point. We can do all of this stuff the same way, but the same thing could happen with a different council.
Under Iowa code, you're supposed to keep those funds separate, can be invested with the general fund. But you have to accumulate them, and then when you need a fire truck or compressor or something, you take it out.
Steve, I totally agree. But what happened the last time? Where did that money go, and why did it go to not the intended funds?
Some of it, I think some of it went
who was
to,
down here screaming at the previous council, hey, you can't do this?
I think initially, I think some of that money went to paying the firemen, what, you guys get money for?
Oh, yeah, reimbursement,
Yeah.
things like that.
Initially, I'm not saying every year is that way, but initially, I think part of that 67 cents ended up going to starting that fund.
So the research that I did on that specific issue, the first problem was that there was no clear documentation clearly designating
Okay, well,
how that.
I
how
know
that
we
money was.
talked.
No,
In the meeting.
I'm sure you did because it's,
Whether it got down on paper.
right,
I don't
because
know.
it was discussed.
Yeah.
It's identified as a discussion point in minutes, but there's no resolution that says this is how the money will be used.
I actually found a resolution in Floyd's desk from 2009 that was probably what you're talking about.
Did you? Oh, yeah, okay, that would be good to have. So the other thing that I saw was that the notes claimed that half the money would be used for fire department capital expense, like trucks, and the other half would be used for general capital
Yeah.
projects.
I mean, is that
Because
how
it's a capital improvement levy.
Is that how it's supposed to work though? Like you need a resolution passed, like what supposedly he's going to make?
If the intention is to pass a levy with a specific intended purpose on how that money should be used, it should be documented in the form of a resolution. Yeah,
I mean,
it should.
I wasn't here, so I don't know the
Well,
history of all of this.
right, but
I mean, my point is, how did it happen? How did it get to the point that it got to? And how do you prevent that from happening again?
ooh, here we go. Thank you very much.
I've got the newspaper article at home, I know what we were voting on.
But again, so how did it get to the point that it got to, that money was earmarked for this, but it got spent over here? Like,
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
Doug's the longest standing person, and if Doug doesn't know, then.
yeah, but Doug's the longest standing person on council. But I guess my point would be, if you're a concerned citizen and you are, where were all these people when all this was going on? Like, how did it get to this point?
Well, I think your point that there's a lot of discretion on the part of the council and the mayor, and that they are held to, they can make a decision right now, and just because we have a 5-year plan, doesn't mean that they have to follow what it says.
Right.
The only thing I can say is that if we have a 5-year plan, then we may foresee something that will, set up where they will be in a position to do something they're supposed to do at that time. So I think, not having that 5-year plan, but just having some funds that you set aside, I think doesn't necessarily allow you to foresee that in 3 years, there's something that you would need to do. And then, then at the time, the discretion of the people will be, I'm going to do this or that, and it might not have been what was thought of when we laid out the longer term plan.
and I understand what you're saying, but like, I think how this new budget is laid out and all these categories addresses a lot of that.
Well, it
I mean,
sets us up, but
right.
it doesn't really have that long training view. So that's what I'm trying to add. I mean, I really like that concept. I just want to actually have it more than a line item. I want to say, in this, over this 5-year period, this is what we anticipate needing to spend money on. So not only did we set up this one for this year, but next year, when we go through that process again, we're going to say, well, in 3 years from now, we're going to be in a position where we have to replace X. So we need to continue to add funds to this one line item. So I mean, that's kind of the thought. It's not going to totally foresee everything, and then we can shift gears too. I mean, we can say that when we do the 5-year plan in a couple of years from now, priorities have changed a little bit, but at least I think that there was some attempt to look ahead and put us in a position to avoid a big debt. Hopefully, I mean, that's really what I want to try to avoid, is the combination of being hit by something we didn't foresee, plus we could have taken on a debt, and then we get double whammy.
Like we did this year, we got double whammy with the derecho and
I mean,
and Fennel Road.
we still had a bond,
And yeah.
Yep. So Chris, I'd like to make a copy of this because I haven't seen this before with all the attachments.
I just now found it.
So this would be very helpful because I've actually tried to look into this and I've only found a couple of the things that were listed that are attached here. So this would be very helpful. So all that being said, I think you bring up some good points, Kev. Anthony, did you have something else?
Some mayors were close to being arrested by the state.
They probably should have been. I'm saying, what, like you've been here at almost every meeting I've probably been at. Were you at every meeting at those, like how did, I'm not blaming you, Steve, but like how, in a town like this, how did you let that happen?
You told me to sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
I had personal things going on. I didn't have full
Yeah.
time working.
No, I understand. Like, I don't think this current council is anywhere near what previous councils have been.
No.
Okay, and I think the thought process is different and how we go about doing things is way different. And I personally, I like how all of this is going, but I can't say that put something down on paper to make future councils act like us. I mean, that's impossible.
The only thing I wanted was to actually make the council do a 5-year plan. I mean, that was the point. So they aren't necessarily gonna be forced to do exactly what I want them to do, other than I want them to go through the thought process of looking farther ahead and plan out that. And it's already been, there's a good template. So we did this, and now next year, we kind of have an idea of how it works. And so that's all I really want to, when I say an ordinance, I really am talking about the process and the 5-year plan.
It's good discussion.
Yep, absolutely. Good.
I'm confident that we are not going to get anywhere further on this tonight, and this couch just keeps getting cushier and sleepier.
And Anthony, on the screen, you're now in the lower third of the screen. You started the meeting off, you were in the top 2/3 of this. You're slowly but surely. That's right. We need to get Anthony a cold beer and a TV, and he is good for the night.
But no, I appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, let's move on to the next thing here. Proposed road maintenance projects for 2021. Kent, you want to give us an update as to the conversations you've had with George?
Yeah, with George and with Chris Cooper. We all met, and it's in your council packet. It looks like this, and it talks about, it's a report that you guys did. I can't remember how long ago, but it talks about what maintenance areas that you need to do. And we have done a lot of them. There's not such a things, but we are looking at different options for crack filling and for coverage. So some of the ideas we had were partner with some of the other communities. And then the other idea that we had, or I guess Chris had, would be to do some residential applications for crack filling. So rather than doing a commercial out for bid process with, throwing a name out there, Tri-City, is just have George do it with a residential application. It's something that we can do. So it's some of the options, but we will present something for you here soon. So,
Okay. So when you say you're gonna present something here soon,
yeah, I don't know.
Like-
It depends on how the.
May?
Yeah. June, I mean, yeah,
okay,
well,
Are
some
you-
sort of plan,
Are you gonna present
like a
George
cost.
option and
Yeah.
third party option, or or are we just gonna get presented one option?
We'll give you a couple of choices, because right now we just have the residential kind of.
I think it might be helpful. Council members, do you have any advice you want to pass on to Kent to kind of keep in mind as he and George kind of keep working through this?
Well, I would be concerned that like a residential patch would not be
Hold on.
as long standing as a commercial patch.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an engineer, but look, we happen to have.
We happen to have a couple engineers and one has his hand up.
There's no questions involved. The most of your asphalt roads will either be new or are in pretty good condition. So that's what Kent calls me, if I go, well, and the roads that are bad are Fennel Road between Bailey and State and Bellingham. And we've been talking about replacement of those since I've been here.
Mhm.
And there's no concrete steps going forward until you get Arconic involved somehow in a special assessment or something.
It isn't just Arconic either.
So I'm.
Because the tank farm.
You're trying to get them to maintain something that's almost new for you guys. Your asphalt roads are the ones that require maintenance.
Well, when I brought this up last year, it was, because a resident in Haven Bakers had mentioned something to me last year, I think, because Sycamore Road was done separately. Then, like a year or two later, Kensington and Wisteria were resurfaced. And so what I had mentioned was, the resident had said to me, well, you don't just like, and I don't know, because I'm not an engineer, but, he had said, you don't just put in a road and then walk away and ignore it forever. Like, somebody needs to come inspect this thing like once or twice a year.
Right, there's one
You know.
crack in Sycamore. It came to, we had that, what do you call it? Polar vortex or whatever.
Mhm.
We had -30, which
Oh, right.
pavement is gonna contract when you get
Yeah.
that cold.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got one crack. If you hire a commercial sealer to come in and do that, you're gonna pay through the nose for that one
Oh,
crack.
That's fine, that's not what I was asking for. So we actually asked Anthony, and Anthony, I think it was you, said, yeah, most cities have a road maintenance plan, like this, like we inspected this street in this month of this year, and it'll next be
Yeah,
inspected
you guys are
here.
blessed. You're a small city, and most of your asphalt pavement is repaired at this point.
But it's not always gonna be new. It might be new right now, but it's not always gonna be new. All I asked was for a plan to be put in place that we start keeping track of the age of our streets, any issues they may have, that they've been inspected,
Gotcha.
that issues have been fixed. I'm not asking us to put out a bid to go fill one crack. That's not what I'm talking about.
Kevin, go ahead.
I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Is this what, I think, Steve, you've mentioned before, like up Manor and Circle?
Manor and Circle
Blowing
needs
out cracks and.
Steel, not happened the last 2 years. Not
Right.
concrete deteriorating.
That's what I don't want to happen. I don't want to take a brand new road and now everybody's ignored it for 2 years and now it needs to be fixed. So all I asked was for a plan to be put in place.
Yeah.
So that we're looking at what we need to look at, in the future. So.
I mean, those, even, Chris, you're like, roads that are new, at what point do they need to be maintained? Like, we're blowing out the cuts and all that.
The brand new road in front of my house lasted 3 weeks before it cracked. They had to come up and route it and put tar
But like a new, I'll ask you, Chris, so what, a brand new road, there's gotta be some time frame where you gotta start it.
They got a year warranty, the construction company's got a year warranty on it, but after that,
Asphalt starts deteriorating pretty bad for 10 years, and that's when you either throw maintenance at it, give it another 10 years, or you're gonna replace it within 5 years.
But so it's your opinion that we don't need to do that for 10 years? We don't need to blow out cracks or do anything? Like, I don't know, I'm asking.
In my opinion, so it was presented to, let me back up. It was presented to me that you needed something to do this year. I don't think this is the year, but I think Kelly's right. You're going to have to do this in the future. So whether it's 3 years or 5 years from now, or 10, then you're gonna have to do it sometime.
Because how long has Manor been in?
Then,
So that obviously needs attention, Manor and.
Well, it's being looked at. And someone says, yeah, this crack, and then, I'm not trying to generate work for MSA,
Right.
George can do it, but just look at the cracks and map them out, get a lineal feet of cracks to be sealed, and then go out for bid with that.
Yeah.
Or spray paint them real quick, so the contractor going out there knows what has to be done. Yeah,
What you're talking about sounds great, but we don't have any plans for anything like that. So
Right.
that's all I'm asking.
That's what she's
to happen.
looking for.
yeah.
That's all I'm
working on it.
asking.
yeah.
We need to fill out cracks.
You wanted to do something this year, and I didn't
I
think.
don't know where that came from. I don't know
Okay,
where that
well,
came
that
from.
was a misunderstanding. That was probably a misunderstanding on my part. I mean, because you got a great staff here with me. But I agree with you, Kelly, and I apologize for speaking on there.
That's okay.
I agree with you. It goes back to the 5-year plan.
I was gonna say that,
You know,
yeah.
you gotta maintain something, you know, you gotta replace something, you budget for it.
But does like Manor and Circle need to be looked at? Like, probably this
If
year?
it's been 10 years since they've been constructed, it'd be worth having someone put eyes on it, yes.
Wouldn't we just want to do an inspection on a regular basis?
The comprehensive plan says you're gonna inspect everything once a year.
That'd be great if we did that.
I love Manor and Circle pretty regularly. I mean, there's, for the most part, Chris is right, it's in really good shape. There are probably 5 or 10 spots where I can see like, you could do like some of that like partial depth replacement. There's like on a couple of the hills, there's places where it's really, like it's turned into gravel, it's getting beat up, but I mean, it's like, again, it's like a George kind of size job, it's not a hire somebody in for.
Well, you see, and that's what I'm saying. When I initially brought something like this up, we can't have George, you never know how long George or anybody's gonna be here. Because we have to make sure that we, I mean, when you go and fill crack with cold patch, it's coming up. When you put the hot, whatever they call that stuff in the cracks to keep the water out, that ain't something that George can do. That's gonna have to be a company to come in and do that stuff, because we don't have the equipment in this city to get that hot stuff and keep it hot enough to work.
Kind of an investment in your investment. I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, you spent how many millions or $1 million on a road? Do you give the maintenance to no offense to
I
whatever
understand.
maintenance guy, but you give a $20 an hour maintenance guy, you have that responsibility to keep that up, you know?
And my point to kind of our administrator was just that driveway sealing material is better than doing nothing at all. That's all I was saying.
And just one thing I'd like to add is, I think there's a difference between a resident, happens to be a council member, but a resident who walks a neighborhood and says, oh yeah, it looks pretty good. I know you're an engineer. And an official city employee going out, or somebody we've contracted with going out and like mapping out cracks and how deep are they and how long are they, and take a picture and, we need to watch this one and, there's a difference between those two things.
And some are repairs we can handle, and some of them we need to have, maybe have something, have a service that.
So that was the conversation we had back in September of last year, maybe?
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember exactly when it was. And that's what I would like to see happen. That's what I brought up again the other day, whenever that was.
Okay. I think we recorded that. Okay. All right, so did you get what you need there,
I
Kat,
got some guidance.
as far as feedback?
Yep.
All right, next, under Parks and Grounds, next steps on the Bicentennial Park rehabilitation. I know Alex had identified that the kind of the dumping area in the backside of Bicentennial Park is not good for the trees that are back there. We've certainly had plenty of residents complain about all the dumping that's going on back there. Kent, where do things stand right now with Bicentennial Park? And is there a plan to, I know that after we moved all the salt out of there, that there was some grading that was done, is that right?
Yep, we've graded it, we've put some seed down. That's where we are.
Okay,
Hopefully George isn't dumping anything else anymore. They cleaned that up last time they were here.
okay,
We rented a cutter or a shredder, we shredded the leaves and
all right,
made it smaller, I guess.
okay. And are we on the same page with with the mowing guys and the landscaping guys in George as to where all that kind of stuff should be, that as far as the tree limbs or the sticks and the leaves and all that kind of stuff, what should be done with it?
We're taking it, their SNR should be taking it out of our city
Okay,
and taking it out.
okay, great. Next, barbed wire. You want to kind of cover what we talked about on barbed wire real quick?
Yeah, Seth came to us not too long ago, about a couple months ago, and told us there's barbed wire stretching from Bicentennial Park almost to Fieldcrest. I think there's 2 homes at the end of Fieldcrest that don't have barbed wire on them. So originally I told Seth that it's his responsibility from the corner of Bicentennial to Fieldcrest to meet with the property owners and this is originally before I talked to the mayor, to work with the property owners adjacent to his property to remove the barbed wire. The city would remove the barbed wire from Bicentennial to the ends of the Bicentennial. That would require, once again, our maintenance individual to rent a piece of equipment and rip all of it out because it's become overgrown and it's a tangled mess of vines and other stuff. That's our plan. So, and then we'll just remove everything from there. The mayor advised me that we will work with Seth and he will, if necessary, will be involved and we'll charge them $50 per.
We'll figure out what the cost
figure out what
is.
the cost is for us to
Cost
do it,
sharing
and
arrangement.
we'll charge the homeowners to do it, or they can do it themselves.
Right, but we want to get all the barbed wire out of there.
No, I understand, but I mean, how when Welch has put that up there, how is the adjacent homeowner to that fence? They didn't put it in.
No, I think he needs the new homeowner.
We gotta, well, whose responsibility is it to remove that fence? Who Welch has put the fence up?
That was
Is that
my
right?
question.
That's all
The city
from
put it
when
in,
it was, yeah, that's.
I'm
Welch
sorry,
has put that in.
what was that?
That was my question too, was that if the city put it in,
Did the city
No.
put
we
it?
should take it out.
Well, I'm sure it's a Welsh.
Welch's did that.
So is it on the property of property owners that are already there, or is it on the property of the new wood subdivision?
It's the farmland.
Go ahead, Steve's got it. I'm sure this comes as a surprise, but Steve Townsend has a comment. He's actually directly affected by this and knows all about farmland and fencing. So Steve, I'm gonna make sure we can hear you. Let's hear you.
The city outlawed barbed wire
Yes,
years ago. And some of the homeowners next to the Welches took the barbed wire down and some didn't. So some's there, some's not. I took out the barbed wire because I got tired of getting cut and put up smooth wire. Iowa Fence Code, chapter 359 covers fences. Even though the Welch put it up, I own half. You stand face to face, stick out your right hand in the center of the fence. I own half, he owns half. I have maintained that fence with the smooth wire, my poles are on there. So you ain't charging me nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's me and Seth. He can take it all down if he wants, but I put new poles in there. I'm pulling them out. Welch's lawyers sent us all a letter, and I brought it down here to City Hall and threw it around, and it said, this is the arrangement we have between the Welch's and the homeowner and the subsequent owner of the farm. I have given that letter to Seth Wood. If you want a copy, I'll bring one down.
Let's get a copy of that letter.
Yes, let's get a copy of that.
Yeah.
How does that, so, Steve, are you saying that the barbed wire fence is literally put on the middle of your guys'
On the
property line?
property line, I got the pins. He used my pins to survey his property.
Yep.
But yours isn't barbed wire, so yours can stay, right?
He's half owner, I'm half owner, and he's got 2 lots behind me, so I'm gonna have 2 owners that I gotta deal with.
I didn't think that was like a legal practice.
Oh, hell yes.
That's how you do it.
I got.
Wouldn't it have to be on somebody's? So a farmer puts up a barbed wire fence right on the property line.
Right.
He doesn't have to get permission from you?
We'll have
No.
to agree to that, wouldn't you?
No.
That's
He
what I'm
can
saying.
charge me half if he wants to.
He can charge you half,
Yes.
but he doesn't have to get your permission.
No. State law, right there. I can show it to you.
Is that because it's a farm and it's barbed wire?
Yeah, kind of.
Like I can't go and put a fence up on my neighbor's, right on my property line.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, you
And I
can.
charge my neighbor for it?
Yes,
For
you
half?
can.
Watch out,
All right.
watch out, all his neighbors.
Now,
Can I charge the school district then too? Because they're my back.
but you can put it 2 inches off the property line and it's all on you.
Right, no, I'd rather make them pay half.
But the standards for the fence, you can't put up a 6-foot cedar. No, they ain't happening. The fences are in there. They don't talk about them, it's
We're
tight.
gonna talk.
That's what's up in Bicentennial Park is a tight fence.
Okay.
Got hot wire at the bottom and 3 strands on the top.
Okay, so now, back to what we're talking about with the city, so
Mhm.
then we're gonna pay for the removal of this as a city?
Well, we're gonna remove the fence that's at the back of Bicentennial Park. Yeah.
Not the whole line.
Oh.
Just
Not the
the
whole line,
Bicentennial
but
Park, I try to.
We
make it-
want all the fencing out. So what I talked to Kent, excuse me, what I talked to Kent about, not knowing about this letter, Steve, so we're gonna want to look at this letter. But what I talked to Kent about was that what we need to do is we need to get all of the residents that are affected and Seth together to say, look, the mission here is to remove this barbed wire fence. It's a nuisance. It's not supposed to be in the city. We want it out of the city. So here are your options. We're going to take what we've got out, okay? Seth is going to take half of everything else out. And since you guys own the rest of the fence, you need to take it out. Or if you can't do it, we'll do it and you can just cover your part of the cost, which we think will be nominal.
Can we force a homeowner to take it out?
Yes. No. But you don't want it. There's very few of them.
Well, I'm not saying you don't
Mhm.
want it, but if you're gonna tell me it's gonna be X amount of dollars to take it out, and I don't wanna pay that money, then maybe the fence is staying.
You can go up and do it for an hour. You just pull the nails and wrap it up.
I think when I say it's a nominal cost, it could be like 20 or 30 bucks. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like.
Now, there may be some people that are like, no, we're not gonna do that.
Right, we can't force a homeowner to take it out, and we can't charge them to take it out.
Nope.
Nope, but I don't know if there are penalties for having barbed wire fence on your property.
I'm just trying to understand all over.
Mhm.
We can and can't.
I've been maintaining the fence. I put new wire up. I put some poles. I'm gonna take them new poles out. And I've been taking my new wire down because most likely the new house owner is gonna put up his. But not on mine.
And I will say this too, Seth Woods has told me that he doesn't want that barbed wire fence back
Well,
there.
yeah, I don't want it up either. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if as a homeowner that, you know. that's all.
I don't know how much equipment user, but
So-
all you need is the building jack to jack and pull, right?
Yep, and I'll say this, Terry Stickler is a wealth of fencing knowledge because while I have not been paying attention, she's left quite a few comments. So let me just share a few of these in here. If you're talking about the barbed wire behind Steve's house and my house, yes, that was from the Welch farm. There was livestock in there at one time. And Steve is correct. If one puts a fence on the property line, that fences the property of both landowners. That's why people often put their fencing 3 inches inside their own property line. And most of the fencing is halfway down anyway. And Geneseo Fiber Optic destroyed the fence that existed between Riverdale property and the residents along Deer Ridge. Okay, so thank you very much, Terry. Always has something interesting to add. There you go. All right, exactly. So that's where we are on the barbed wire stuff. Let's make sure we get that letter from Steve. Let's go ahead and move on to the last couple things in here. Remediation of the dump material near Deerbrook Estates. Kent, can you fill us in as to where we stand there?
Yeah, we're looking at contacting J&H Properties out of, I think they're Muscatine. We'll be sending an abatement of the nuisance letter to them and that telling them they have 30 days to get their property off our property. We'll be sending it certified mail, just like any other nuisance, and we'll be getting it accomplished.
And we're dealing with the property owner and not the renter. We're
Not the renter, we're not gonna go that route.
That's the one that you're talking about, right, Steve?
Yes.
Yep. Next, the bike station update, not the bike Spartan update. This was, Kent was just trying to be pro PV here. So said bike
Have you ever tried
Spartan.
to read his handwriting? It's
That's
really
right.
impossible. Anyway.
That's true. That is also true.
So I thought it was Spartan. It made sense. So we are waiting for a proposal from Healthy Habits. As you can imagine, there is a backlog on material. So we're doing it. Contacted them like 3 times in the last.
And that would go in that parking lot off of Bellingham Road.
There's a backlog of material I get, but is that stopping us from giving us a quote? Like, can't we lock in the price?
You know what the price of steel is right now?
Well, but what could it be?
$100.
What could it be 6 months from now? It might be 150.
It won't go any higher. I'm telling you, it won't go any higher.
I did
I'm thinking a nice wooden
I
bike.
did contact the corporation.
Working steel, I know.
It's the corporation that Healthy Habits works with, and tried to get a quote. The company's called Saris, and they're out of Wisconsin. So I did try to contact that company directly and just say, hey, give us a quote, but they're a subsidiary. They want to work with a local.
I'm thinking we could make a bike station out of barbed wire, but that's
There you
just.
go.
Okay, that's right. There we go. That'll land me in the old Capitol Dispatch, won't it? Okay. Next, ice cream social event. Kelly, give us an update.
We're gonna have our event on June 5th, which is Saturday, from 2 to 4. It's gonna be in the new Windsor State. There's plenty of parking on the street, and we're gonna have a lot of bands and some options for kids, and face cleaners, and ice cream, unlimited ice cream. Flyers going out in the mail in the next few days. I'm gonna see a volunteer helping me so that we can have someone here in Riverdale. And
Did you say unlimited ice cream?
Yeah, I stopped now and they're too.
I know, I'm going like, all I heard was, what, unlimited ice creams. What?
So come, we have a tent, table and chairs, and hang out, and shoot some videos, ice cream, be social in person, like we did a couple years ago. Hopefully it'll be all right.
That'll be fun.
Bring your family.
And unlimited ice cream.
And unlimited ice cream. I
That's-
hope I mentioned that.
I got your email, I haven't got nothing back yet. but
Okay, that's
Right.
She's spoken with Quad City Strongmen, we're talking about having a fire truck up there and see if they can pull it.
Oh, great.
So that's gonna be good fun, yeah.
Well, I need more ice cream. Okay. I'll pull this fire truck. All right. Event policy. Where do we stand on that? I know that there was some initial homework done on that. We need to push forward on an event policy.
I can tell you that recently there's been some noise complaints within your municipality. and that, the proposed event policy that Alderman Crowe or Councilmember Crowell's proposing would put a nix to this complaint, and so, there's, you have a noise violation, you have noise.
But that's separate from the event policy.
So,
Anyway.
so the event policy would help us considerably enforcing those situations.
Boy, just because you didn't get invited?
And here's what's funny is it was a Thursday night a couple weeks ago, and I was trying to go to bed because, you know, Friday I have to go to work the next day early. I get up early, and it was so loud, and I thought, who in our neighborhood is having a party on a Thursday night? That's so weird. And I almost called the sheriff, but I didn't want to be that person, you know. And I'm glad I didn't, because it was the bar apparently was having a, I think, a band outside. But on a Thursday night, like, if it was a Friday or Saturday night, I probably wouldn't even thought twice about it. But on a Thursday night, like, what is our policy?
Is there a noise ordinance?
There is a noise ordinance, yes.
Is there a time on it?
Yes,
Okay.
What's the time?
I don't know.
Did you post 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock, so, yeah, I don't know, but.
No. It would be a problem if they had unlimited ice cream. Just saying. Okay.
So we do need to keep working on that policy and on the form, and we do need to talk about it as a council again, but maybe not when, you know.
Right. Okay, last thing here real quick. I attended the MRCTI meeting that we held yesterday, as a matter of fact. And one of the things that we're talking about is the American Rescue Plan. It's federal legislation that's going to release $500 billion to cities to cover a variety of expenses related to the pandemic and to the financial impact the pandemic had on city budgets. With the economic impact of the pandemic really restricted for a lot of cities, it really cut into the tax revenue, especially when you're looking at sales tax and like fuel surcharge taxes and things like that. So there's some replacement money made available that will come through the state of Iowa, be made available to cities of 50,000 people or less. Just as a point of information, there's also specific funds available for sewer infrastructure improvements. So Kent and I have talked about that to make sure that we figure out who we need to talk to see if we can pick up some of that extra money. Because if you remember in the budget that you guys certified that we have to recertify, there's about $300,000 worth of city sanitary sewer improvements in the budget. So we're going to see how much of that we might be able to pick up as a grant. Okay. So that being said, that's my one little piece of info to share with you all as mayor. I don't have anything else. Is there any other information that we want to go ahead and cover? Yes, Anthony.
I just wanted to say that I don't think anybody was aware of this, but one of Kelly's neighbors reached out to me and had lost her flood insurance. And so working with Kent and some folks at the county and some folks at the state, and it actually ended up all the way in Washington, D.C. But everything is all corrected, and it was the entire county got booted out of the National Flood Insurance Program for like a day or something like that. But you can go online and you can see it, but it's all fixed now and everybody's good. I talked to her, she's got her flood insurance, is all no lapse of policy or anything like that, but hopefully everybody else is okay. But just something to, if people are out there listening and you have flood insurance, make sure you check that your policy is all square. It should be. Let us know if it's not.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that SNAP, that underlying SNAP, will also affect the communities that aren't in the Mississippi River floodplain too. So even Eldridge and a number of other cities kind of not along the river were all affected as well. So thanks for your help on all that, Anthony. That was really great. Let's see, Kent, anything else to wrap up?
No.
All right, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. So I have a motion from Paul, second from Anthony. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All the rest of you can say I'm out of here. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. I think our next meeting may run a little bit smoother, but it's been fun. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. So long.